Hey Avengers, welcome back to the initiative. My name is Vanessa, aka Cutcreaser, and we are talking about Spider-Man No Way Home. Wow, I can't believe this movie is out already. I feel like I was just existing a couple months ago, not knowing anything about this movie, very ignorant to all the plot leaks and everything like that. And we had no poster, we had no trailer, we had nothing about this film. But now we have literally watched it either once, twice, 3 times. I don't know how many times you have watched it. I have watched it twice already. I'm going to watch it a 3rd time and probably a 4th because I'm not okay. If you know me, you know Spider-Man is my favorite character of all time. Favorite superhero of all time, transcending Marvel, DC, any comic book ever. Any comic book ever. This movie is like amazing. I am not doing my makeup today because it's going to take me a while to get through this breakdown of this plot, and I want to talk about everything because in case you don't have a friend to talk to about this movie and you want to talk to me about it, if you want to listen to me chat about my thoughts on the movie, this is the video for you. So yeah, this is your spoiler warning. Do not keep watching if you haven't seen the movie. Go watch the movie, come back, watch this video, have fun with me. Just a warning, if you aren't liking my audio right now, I'm sorry, but it is what it is. My microphone is not working, so yeah, I should turn the fan off, but it is hot in here, so my audio is not going to be great in this video, and I apologize for that. If you hear stuff in the background, I apologize. He starts off right after Far From Home. Far From Home was released in 2019. That was the last film that came out before the pandemic started, so it's been a long time since Spider-Man Far From Home. And I think this movie was supposed to release like last year, but it got delayed. Even production got delayed as well, but this movie was filmed pretty fast, in my opinion. I feel like it was filmed pretty fast, but it starts off right where the film ends, where Far From Home ends. Far From Home ends with, you know, Spider-Man saving Europe, basically, because Mysterio is about to like destroy Europe. Mysterio decides to reveal Spider-Man's identity as Peter Parker to the dailybugle.net, who is hosted by a variant J. Jonah Jameson from the Raimi Spider-Man movies. It's crazy. It's nuts. I think that this movie really does so much. It's crazy. And that post-credit scene of J. Jonah Jameson revealing Spider-Man's identity as Peter Parker was probably one of the best post-credit scenes ever. It was insane. Like the sheer amount of like shock that left me with in 2019. So this movie really goes back from that post-credit scene and literally kicks off right then and there. It's perfect. It's a perfect transition. If you watch Far From Home before No Way Home, it's a smooth transition into this movie. It is very crazy. Even the tone doesn't shift. They really take from right at the ending where he's like, and then cuts to him still like this and pans down to Zendaya, who's playing MJ. My god, Zendaya. Who's playing MJ, and the crowd is just like, whoa, you're a kid? And they're like attacking MJ and Peter. It's insane. So after Quentin Beck, aka Mysterio, reveals Peter Parker's identity as Spider-Man and frames him for murdering him after the events of Far From Home, Jake Gyllenhaal has been ruining a lot of things this year, but he gave us 2 great things. He gave us No Way Home, and he gave us All Too Well. And for that, Jake Gyllenhaal, if you're watching this, you probably aren't, but maybe you did something. Peter, MJ, Ned, and Aunt May are attacked by the media. Like, they are plastered all over the news. Every single broadcasting station is talking about them. Every single tabloid, news, magazine articles, Time Magazine, People Magazine, US Weekly, they're on it. They're on the cover. New York Post, Daily Bugle, New York Times. Like, it's everywhere. The entire world knows that this kid is Spider-Man. I think he's 17 in this movie. He's a 17-year-old kid, and he's Spider-Man. Imagine the shock if Spider-Man was real and you're here thinking, oh, this might be like a 20-something-year-old man doing all this stuff, saving the world, hanging out with the Avengers, going to space, saving the universe. It's a kid. Imagine that shock. I would be so shook if that was real. MJ's full name is Michelle Jones Watson. Michelle Jones Watson? Yeah. The way I jumped out my seat when I realized that her name was Michelle Jones Watson, MJW, like, wow. I was like, this is crazy. This is good. People have been saying that Michelle Jones is not a real MJ, but the addition of adding Watson to the name, absolutely wonderful. I personally really like that. Ned are under scrutiny. They're both getting attacked by the Daily Bugle and just a bunch of tabloids. They're all talking about them and their relationship to Spider-Man and Peter Parker. They literally helped Peter throughout Far From Home, so they are under scrutiny for a reason, and they are all under investigation. Like, the feds are literally like interrogating them. They also investigate Stark Industries because of the drone tech, because of Edith, the glasses. J. Jonah Jameson, he's back from the Sam Raimi films. He's an Alex Jones type of guy that like runs his own broadcast of the dailybugle.net, and he's literally like speaking to the entire world behind like a green screen, like it's all like a working from home type of thing. And throughout the movie you see his growth because, you know, he's making so much money, he's making so much he's making a lot of, you know, noise from talking about Spider-Man, talking about Peter Parker. So that, it kind of gets him, you know, more fame and more fortune for him to keep going as like a Daily Bugle person, host. So it's very interesting, but it's also this moment where you see like, it's like a freeze and you'll miss it moment where you see the tabloids, you see like Two-Faced, and it's like literally a split Peter Parker and Spider-Man mask magazine cover, and then they also cut to a little cartoon figure. They make fun of Spider-Man, call him Iron Man Jr. They say Iron Man Jr. I thought that was really freaking meta. Like, John Watts, because obviously we know the comparisons of this Spider-Man, the MCU Spider-Man, to Iron Man. Like, everybody says like he's Iron Boy Jr. And I feel like this movie really just like punches those people in the face. Like, it really like dives into why this MCU Spider-Man is becoming really the Spider-Man that we've been waiting for. It's a clear jab at the Tom Holland Spidey haters, and I loved it because while Tom Holland isn't my favorite Spider-Man, I'll get into that later, he's not my favorite Spider-Man, but in this movie I feel like he gets the redemption that he deserves, because people have been on his ass for like years about him being too much like Tony. So I really thought that that was really cool and really well done how they like did a little meta joke about that. And you know, this whole movie is like his trajectory to not being an Iron Man Jr. type of figure. John Watts, in my opinion, he gradually introduced things that actively help Peter throughout the Home trilogy, like in Homecoming with the Stark suits and the Stark tech in Far From Home, and all those good things that he's had so far to get him to this point are like gradually taken away. And it's very interesting how they put Peter through the ringer by introducing all these good things and just taking them away in the last movie. It's really interesting, and I like the way that they did this because it kind of reminds me of what they did to Thor in Thor Ragnarok. You know, they took away Mjolnir, and Mjolnir is his weapon, you know what I mean? Like, Mjolnir is something that he is like emotionally and physically attached to, you know? So I thought it was really interesting that, you know, the Stark tech and the suits were Peter's Mjolnir, and it takes a lot for Thor to, you know, become Thor and actually feel like the god of thunder, because he's not the god of hammers, he's the god of thunder. So I feel like they did that similar thing here to Peter in No Way Home, where they just strip him of all the things that make him the MCU Spider-Man, but he becomes the core Spider-Man that we've been waiting for. And I thought that was brilliant. Okay, so back to the whole lawyer thing. He's getting charged for murder. Like, this is it's insane to think about, because you know MJ and Ned are just kids, and Peter is just a kid too. Like, they're all three of them are just trying to go to school, and they can't go to school, they can't have a normal life because they're constantly being attacked, and they also have to apply for college, and that's also a little subplot that this movie does as well. Aunt May and Peter, they're being attacked at their apartment, they're constantly getting raided by the FBI. Everybody's like just bullying them the entire first 15 minutes of this film, and we cut to back to Aunt May's apartment, and you see a stick just slam to the ground. Oh my god. And it pans to Charlie Cox's face. Matt Murdock, Daredevil. Oh my god. If you have not seen Daredevil, it's a Marvel Netflix show. It originally was supposed to be MCU canon, but the line kind of gets blurred between the MCU and then just Marvel Netflix continuity. It's not necessarily MCU before this film. It wasn't necessarily MCU anymore because Marvel Television was the production company that produced this show. That production company went defunct. So when Matt Murdock shows up, like, oh my god, it's like, it blew my mind. I mean, I knew that this was coming because of all the plot leaks and stuff, and like the reveals of like the actors that were gonna be in it. It was still really shocking. It was really crazy because I was binging Daredevil for the past like 3 weeks. I still haven't finished season 3, but when it pans to Matt Murdock, it is just like the craziest thing. I mean, come on, like, he's talking about, you know, he's getting the charges dropped because he's a very good lawyer. Oh my god, instant heart attack. Literally, I could barely hear what he says in this part of the movie because everybody was screaming for him because it was such an exciting moment. I mean, Daredevil is one of the most beloved comic book adaptations. Definitely one of my favorite portrayals of a comic book character. I mean, Charlie Cox does a really good job at playing Matt Murdock, and I really loved it. Also, big massive Hawkeye spoiler, Kingpin was revealed to be in the last episode, and he's the core villain of the entire show so far, and the series finale comes out tomorrow. You're seeing this on Tuesday, so tomorrow you'll see the Hawkeye finale and you'll see Kingpin. But that reveal of Kingpin and then the reveal of Daredevil the very next day, come on, that was just amazing. This is just good food. If you haven't watched Daredevil, I highly recommend. It is probably one of the darker Marvel kind of properties because of the way it's filmed. It's very gritty, it's very dark in themes, and I feel like you would definitely like it if you liked No Way Home a lot. So definitely go watch it if you don't know who Matt Murdock is, but if you do, this was a moment. But yeah, I feel like Daredevil and Kingpin have like such a greater purpose now that they're in the MCU, now that they're officially canon and they're interacting with MCU characters. I really think that that's really cool, and I hope that we get a Spider-Man movie where Kingpin is the villain and, you know, Spider-Man has to deal with Wilson Fisk. It would be incredible if him and Daredevil teamed up.
I forgot to talk about this, but when Daredevil has his moment and catches the brick that says Mysterio is right, or believe in Mysterio, or I believe Mysterio, I don't know which one it was, but the part where Matt literally catches the brick thrown from the window and catches it before Peter does, and he says, "I'm a very good lawyer." Oh, what a moment. I literally screamed at the top of my lungs. Oh my god, everybody in the theater shouted, cheered for joy. I need Matt Murdock to come back to me. I need a 4th season of Daredevil on Disney Plus. Give me it now.
The main driving point of this film is Peter trying to save his friends' lives because, I mean, they're all being ruined. I mean, there's literally been just so much like chaos that it just affects MJ and Ned's lives. You know, they want to go to MIT together, all 3 of them. They all want to go to college together. They all want to just live in Boston together. But because of their affiliation to Spider-Man, they're unable to get accepted. Every single one of them, Peter, MJ, and Ned. And then for some reason, like, can we talk about how Flash got accepted to MIT? The only way he got accepted to MIT was because obviously he definitely paid for that admission, but it was really just annoying the fact that he was accepted into MIT and they weren't. Like, oh my god. And it really takes a toll on Peter because, you know, he feels responsible for ruining his friends' lives. This is terrible. Like, they can't even go to school. What I love about this moment, because when he's about to go find Strange, he doesn't want this for himself. He never says, Strange, please get us into MIT. He says, I want to get MJ and Ned into MIT. Like, I want to help them. He does this solely for his girl and his best friend, and I thought that that was just like a slither of the accurate Peter Parker that I was looking for that we see throughout the film. This was just like the first step in his becoming Peter Parker Spider-Man. It was very subtly done how this came about. Like, you know, it's very subtle that he doesn't even mention him and he doesn't even care about him. He's only focusing on them. And it's also revealed here that Strange is no longer the Sorcerer Supreme, which is really interesting because in WandaVision, Catherine Hahn is obviously referring to Doctor Strange when she talks about the Sorcerer Supreme, but Wong is actually the Sorcerer Supreme because Strange was blipped after 5 years. So at this point in WandaVision, definitely they were talking about Wong. They were not talking about Doctor Strange, which I think is really interesting considering, you know, Doctor Strange is the main, you know, he's the main character in the next Doctor Strange film because, hello, it's a Doctor Strange movie. But he's no longer the Sorcerer Supreme, so I really am excited to see how that plays out in Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness. So Strange gets the idea to get everyone to forget Peter is Spider-Man, including him. So this moment just scares the hell out of Peter because he wants MJ, Ned, Aunt May, and Happy to know his identity, but he's interrupting Strange while he's doing the spell. So Strange is casting the spell, and then Peter just keeps requesting to get everybody to, you know, retain their memories. But like, the thing is like, Doctor Strange didn't even explain this. He didn't even say like, oh, everybody's gonna forget. Everybody. He literally just starts the spell by saying, nice knowing you, Spider-Man, and then he literally just like does his thing. Like, bro, you need to communicate next time. I mean, this is a 17-year-old kid. He's like literally trying to fix things, and you know he's a kid. You know he's not gonna like you know like it just gets me so mad because people were mad at Peter. But I feel like I was a little mad at Doctor Strange because he should have explained the spell better. And then Peter just hops into the spell itself. So that's why the spell gets chaotic and like, you know, it just gets all messed up because Peter hops into the little circle that Doctor Strange is doing to create the spell. They're both floating and like everything starts to rip, and Strange manages to contain it in like a weird geometric shape. It looks really similar to the containment of Ultron and Zola in What If. If you haven't watched What If, definitely watch it because it's definitely going to be important for the Multiverse of Madness, which is going to be the next film that comes out. So definitely watch What If. Also, it's what contains Strange Supreme, the Dark Doctor Strange from What If. That also looks very similar to that. Strange realizes that this idiot, Peter, he's an idiot too. He never even thought to plead his case to MIT. He never thought to be like, oh, let me call them up. Idiot. Peter finds a way to talk to an admissions lady from Flash, and he finds the lady's location. The lady's like literally on a highway about to go to an airport, so he literally just like zoops in. You know, the helicopter's following him because they're all trying to get footage of Spider-Man now because Spider-Man's the most famous person in the world. And as he's about to like badly plead his case, he senses something coming. Here is where the fun starts. Guess who it is? Otto Octavius, we know. So it's Doc Ock from the 2002 Sam Raimi Spider-Man 2, which is the best Tobey movie ever. Directed by the great Sam Raimi, and he is the exact same version of the character. Nothing's changed. He's the exact same version of the character and fully attacks Peter because he's Spider-Man. He puts the nanotech iron spider suit on, and you know, Doc Ock sees a Spider-Man suit, so obviously he's gonna think it's his Peter. And so it feels so good to see Doc Ock fight again, because you know, the last time we seen Doc Ock was literally in 2004. Like, that's literally so long ago. I was a child. He saves the MIT lady because she's about to fall down into like the train tracks. It's crazy, but he saves her, and she promises to get MJ and Ned and Peter to go to MIT. And this is where Peter's like, no, I just wanted MJ and Ned. And then she's like, no, you three, all right, I'm out. And then she like yells at Doc Ock. Doc Ock almost kills him. He almost kills him because he adapts some of the nanotech from the Iron Spider suit to his tentacles. So like you see, oh my god, I love this shot so much. He literally, it's like this, like you literally see it go attach to one tentacle because you know it's not enough, and he just as he's about to slam Peter into this concrete, Peter's nanotech like covers his chest, and then it reveals his face, and Doc Ock's like, that's not my Peter Parker. Who the hell are you? Otto gets distracted, so Peter kind of just like takes control of the nanotech that is already attached to the tentacle, because like the nanotech is so smart that it just like automatically like detects new technology that it's adapted to. I love this little bit right here because you know he's literally upside down, but he finds a way to kind of confuse him and you know take control of the tentacles. So he like does it with the wrist thing, and then when he realizes he takes control of the tentacle, like Peter's like this, and then the claws will go like this, and it's so cute. He's literally laughing while he does it. Tom is so good in this film. Like, there's so many little things that I really, really loved about what he does in this movie, especially when he's Spider-Man. It's really, really good, and I love it. Another moment that I really love in this fight sequence is when they're fighting on the bridge. Doc Ock's like, I should have killed your girlfriend when I had the chance, and then Peter comes out of like a truck, and you see the Iron Spider legs like come out like that, and then he crawls up and he's like, he squints and he's like, what did you say? He just goes at it with Doc Ock. It's the funniest thing. Is like, oh my god, don't ever comfort MJ. Like, never. Don't do that to Peter Parker. And the same thing also happens in Spider-Man 2. No, in Spider-Man 1, when Green Goblin says that he's going to kill MJ. This is when Tobey gets the strength to overcome Green Goblin and like fight back, like really, really fight back. So I really like that little callback, even though it wasn't the same villain. The theme of Peter doing that, because you know why, like he would never let that happen, so the anger just takes over him because he's just like, hell no, not my girl. I love it. I love it. We'll get into Tobey soon because yeah, but I want to go in order because I don't want to miss anything. He's interrupted by Norman Osborn, Green Goblin from 2002 Spider-Man. Oh my god. The buildup of Goblin's first appearance, when you hear his laugh and then the pumpkin ball just like rolls over on the ground. Oh my god. And then he swoops through the smoke. The explosions happen. He swoops through the smoke. Oh my god. It is so good because like Peter's like, what the hell? And then all you see is the Goblin on the glider about to like get him. Like it's like first person of like Goblin about to hit Peter, and then you see Peter just swoop into the Doctor Strange's dungeon in the Sanctum Sanctorum. The eruption was just so jarring that it just happened so fast. It was crazy. I loved it. I loved it. Because you're like, oh shit, Green Goblin, and then you're like, oh, okay. What happened? And Peter's like, what's going on? And then the lizard does a jump scare. Oh my god. That jump scare really got me the first time. I'm not gonna lie. Like, it was so loud. And I was like, oh, wow. And then, you know, Peter gets jump scared by Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange kind of explains to him that, like, oh, he found that lizard in the sewer. That lizard being Kurt Connors from The Amazing Spider-Man from 2012. Much love to Rhys Ifans, aka Xenophilius Lovegood. But I really did like the portrayal of Rhys Ifans as Kurt Connors. Not really the lizard, but Kurt Connors I really did like. I like how endearing he was, and you genuinely felt, you know, sympathy for him because he has like that like phantom hand moment in The Amazing Spider-Man. I'll put the scene here, and it just like, oh, I love that scene so much. He does a really good performance as Curt Connors, the Doctor, and as Peter's mentor in The Amazing Spider-Man. That movie is, I love that movie so much. Oh my god. The Lizard had nothing to do in this movie. I'll get into that in a bit. But even on Andrew's Spider-Man later in the movie, he really didn't do anything. They didn't even have that much of a moment. Like, it was just like, oh, hey, Dr. Connors, and then he goes, pizza, because like, oh my god. In The Amazing Spider-Man, oh my god, one of the most corniest parts is when Dr. Connors is like the Lizard, and then he like peels back Peter's mask, and he's like, poor pizza Parker. Mother, no. Father, no. Uncle. Like, it's just so... Oh my god. Probably one of the corniest parts of that movie. I still like it. I don't I have a gripe with this because, you know, he says the people that know Peter Parker as Spider-Man come in. Otto Octavius, Norman Osborn, Dr. Connors, and Sandman do know Peter Parker as Spider-Man. But Max Dillon, aka Electro, never knew Peter's identity. If you watch The Amazing Spider-Man 2, he never knew Peter Parker's identity. Ever. Like, so how did he get in? If he did it, it was only the villains that knew Peter Parker was Spider-Man. How did he get in? Because he didn't know him. He didn't know Peter. He knew Spider-Man, but he didn't know Peter was Spider-Man. He didn't know Spider-Man's identity. How'd he get in? Anyways, and then the only character from The Amazing Spider-Man 2 that does know that Peter is Spider-Man, other than Gwen, is the nasty goblin played by Dane DeHaan. He's the only one that knows that Peter is Spider-Man, and he learns that Peter is Spider-Man after Electro dies. So... one thing that this movie does is do things based on convenience, which I'm not too mad at because, like, in the event of this movie, like, this movie is just trying to get the plot going, you know what I mean? Like, and it just wants to add on to the fact that, like, oh, all the villains from the other movies are coming back. So it's like, yes, it's a nitpick, but, like, it makes no sense. Yeah, Peter, MJ, and Ned work together to capture the remaining villains. Ned also meets Doctor Strange and mentions that his family might be magical because he feels tingling sensation in his fingers, and Doctor Strange just like brushes it off and like tells him to go to the doctor. It really does foreshadow the amazing reveal we get later on in the movie. And I do think it's very interesting about Ned's family. They might be connected to sorcery on the level of Doctor Strange and Wong, mostly due to familial ties, so it might be like something that runs in the family rather than something that is learned. Because this kid, he does it so fast. He learns really, really fast. And that is something that even Doctor Strange, who is extremely intelligent because obviously he's a doctor and he's one of the best surgeons across the board, it takes him a long time to perfect the sorcery. So, you know, it's really interesting that, that Ned learns really, really fast. Yeah, Peter goes on to capture Electro from The Amazing Spider-Man 2 and Flint Marko from Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 3. Peter finds Electro and he's come back as like a full body form, and he's not blue anymore. Thank God. And it's interesting how this is never explained as well. They poke fun at it, but it's never explained because, like, he looks too cool. He looks so cool. Like, Jamie Foxx. It's Jamie Foxx that you're looking at. And Jamie Foxx just looked cool, so it's really interesting. I'll accept it. I'll accept it because, you know, Electro was not great in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Is probably one of the worst parts of Amazing Spider-Man 2 because of how bad they did him in that movie. Like, creatively, they just across the board, just like physically it didn't look good. Character-wise, it didn't feel good. I didn't feel anything for him when he died anyway too, and like, you're supposed to sympathize or empathize with Max Dillon because he's such an outcast. It's very, very bad writing in that movie. It's my least favorite Spider-Man. I'm not gonna get into it right now, but this Electro, good soup. Good soup. I really, really liked this version of Electro. Jamie managed to make Electro his own, and I really, really liked that he did. Although I do wish that him being too cool should have been toned back a little bit. Because he only becomes cool after he becomes blue, and like he becomes blue and like, you know, he can do all these things. But when Electro comes back to his full human form and like the full body and everything, it's just like, ooh, like they could have turned it like back into that like dorky side a little bit. They could have added a little bit more of like that like dorkiness. I don't know how to explain it, but if you watch The Amazing Spider-Man 2, you get what I'm saying, because Max Dillon was a dork. I feel like if they touched back into that a little bit with this one, I would have liked it a little bit more, just because I thought that it was really good comic relief. Because like, you know, he has like this one line right in that scene where he's like, so we're just gonna stand here and act like I'm not naked in the woods. It is delivered so well. My whole theater busted out laughing. He has so many other little lines as well, like gotta watch where you fall. That whole sequence of him talking to Sandman about their origin story is amazing. One of my favorite scenes. I really loved the fact that he was just like, gotta watch where you fall, because he falls into a vat of electric eels, and then Sandman falls into a whole sand collider thing that like messes with his cells. Yeah. As also that moment at the end with Andrew. I'll get into that later. But he's very OP when he uses his powers. He has a really, really cool moment in the third act where like his powers manifest a crown over his head that looks like the comic accurate Electro. Oh my god, killed me right now. Oh my god, I loved it. Okay, when it comes to Sandman, because Peter also captures Sandman here, I absolutely love that he comes into this universe and sees Spider-Man and automatically wants to help him. He automatically wants to help him because of his ending in Spider-Man 3, and Thomas Hayden Church voices the role, since he's mostly CGI in this movie. Probably couldn't come to the, you know, like the physical human form at the end because you know, probably because of COVID scheduling conflicts. So they literally used a scene from Spider-Man 3 for that like end scene when they cure him. Ran for him to automatically distrust Peter when like he shoots Electro to go back into that little prison. Because his main motive in this movie was just him trying to get back to his daughter. He has a really sad origin story in Spider-Man 3. So yeah, I really do think he's probably has one of the saddest ones next to Doc Ock. But yeah, that's his main motivator in this movie as well. So I thought that was interesting. But my thing is that Sandman and Lizard were just a bit two-dimensional in this movie. The ones that really got like, you know, full-blown arcs was Doc Ock, Green Goblin, and Electro. Even Electro still didn't have that much of a plotline, because this movie's main villain is Norman Osborn. So Norman, he finds himself in an alleyway, reclaims control of himself, because, you know, the Green Goblin personality comes and goes. I love this shot. Norman trying to hide his glider in the alleyway, because he has a moment where he talks to the Green Goblin persona, like in Spider-Man. It's really, really well done. The great Willem Dafoe. My god, he gave us a performance. He acted his butt off, and I was tuned in. I was literally just like strapping myself in. I was ready. He was a menace in this movie. Oh my god. Okay, then he shatters his mask out of fear, trying to escape the persona, but we hear the persona laugh while the mask is smashed and he's walking away. And this scene literally mirrors one scene from Spider-Man 2 where Spider-Man literally hangs up his Spider-Man suit, he throws it in the trash, and he walks away when like that whole Spider-Man No More arc in that movie. New Rockstars pointed that out, and I literally freaked out when I realized what they pointed out. I was like, whoa, that is so true. Like, it literally parallels. If you go and look at both scenes, oh my god, it's almost identical. Norman gets treated by Aunt May at Feast. The Feast Center is a homeless center in the comics, and the Feast Center is also used in the Spider-Man PS4 game as well. If you haven't played that game, you totally should, especially after No Way Home. You will thank me, because that story will keep you going for however long it takes you to complete the video game. Peter finds that Norman is in that feast center, and then he's bonding with Aunt May. And then he's explaining who he is, and then he also like says that like he came to find his apartment filled with people he didn't know. Oscorp never existed, and he thinks about his son Harry. This moment of like vulnerability almost made me be like, oh, Norman, no. Wow. It caught me. It literally got me. I was literally like, oh my god, I'm empathizing with him already. You're dumb, Vanessa. Why would you think that? Because when, like, don't trust him. You never trust Norman Osborn. I was fooled. I was hoodwinked, okay? Peter brings him into the dungeon, but he doesn't put him in a cell. He allows him to interact with the other villains, who learn that they were pulled from before their deaths into this universe. Peter insists on bringing them back into their universe, but after May realizes how lost Norman Osborn is and how lost the others could be, she advises him not to. And she's like, she believes that Peter is only doing that for his own sake, and that's not what they do. They help people, and that is like a main point for Peter throughout the rest of the film. And this gives him the idea to cure them, and you know, this helps him figure out why he shouldn't send them back. Strange contains the spell in a box that can send back the villains to their universes to meet their fates, after he overhears the villains talking about like, oh, like I died here, I died there, and then some of them didn't die. Dr. Connors does not die. He gets sent to jail. The only person that dies from really like Spider-Man's hands was Electro, because Gwen and Peter in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, they literally overload him with power and he explodes into thin air. He's the only one that like Spider-Man really killed, which that's why I don't really like that film, because Spider-Man doesn't kill people. Spider-Man doesn't kill people, and that's a big plot point in this movie, which I really loved, because you know, this is where Peter's like, whoa, they can't go back to their universes to die. That can't be their fate. You know, there has to be some other way. After listening to May's thoughts on helping Norman, he decides that he can cure them, so that maybe they can prevent their deaths when they return to their universes. This is the most Peter Parker thing ever. This Peter wants to literally cure these villains before they ever die, because that's the core of Peter Parker. He doesn't want to kill people. That's not his job. His job is to help people, okay? And that is just like, oh my god, it's the most Spider-Man thing for him to do in this movie, and that's why I'm not even mad that he made that choice. There was somebody next to me that was like, oh, he's an idiot. He's an idiot if he thinks he can cure them. I'm like, you really don't know Peter Parker. You don't know the character of Spider-Man, because that Spider-Man will save people no matter what the cost is. If they die, it's usually on their accords because they don't want to be saved. Norman Osborn in the first Spider-Man did not want to be saved. And then Peter helps Otto come back to his senses in the end of Spider-Man 2. And then in Spider-Man 3, Eddie dies on his own accords. He dies when he like combines himself with the Venom symbiote and explodes. Harry doesn't die because of Spider-Man. He dies of his own accords as well. He gets killed. And then Sandman doesn't even die either. Sandman disappears. He gets forgiven. Okay. And then Lizard goes to jail. So he doesn't die either. The only person that dies is Electro. That's why I don't like that movie. But literally, don't be mad at Peter for making that decision. It was what was right. That's what Peter would do. Okay? Oh my god. Okay. Really, he only considers this after the fact that he's already bonded with Norman, and Norman already trusts him at this point, and because we don't know what Norman's actual motives are, but he really gains the trust of Peter as well, and they both really bond, because when Doctor Strange sends him to the cell, he yells for Peter. He's like, Peter, help, help. And then like Peter's like listening to Norman plead for help because he already feels bad for him. And Strange strongly disagrees with Peter because he knows that this is the only way that this could, you know, end good. So it's, oh my god, it's crazy because they fight. Doctor Strange and Peter Parker go at it. And so Peter tries to escape with the box, and Strange does this like astral projection punch to him that the Ancient One does to Strange in the first Doctor Strange movie, and just pushes him out of his body. His astral projection is just like, whoa, what did you do to me? And then Doctor Strange tries to take the box from Peter's Spider-Man body, and then Spider-Man is like, the body of Spider-Man is literally going like this because his body is too quick because of the spider sense. The actual Peter Parker astral projection, he's very self-aware of what's happening, and he literally swims back into his body. It's amazing. I love, oh my god, it was so comic-y. Also in a New Rockstars breakdown, they also mentioned that you can see the little Spidey senses waves in this scene. I'm gonna go see it a third time, and I want to catch that the next time I see it. They fight in the mirror dimension over this box, and it takes some time, but you know, Peter's almost defeated, but he uses math to defeat Doctor Strange in the mirror dimension. He literally traps him in there, takes his sling ring, and goes back to the prison where, you know, they're all in underground. He gives the sling ring to Ned because he's fascinated by it. He's a nerd, and he loves, like, you know, magic and stuff, because I mean, this kid has been watching Star Wars since day one. Of course he's tried to use the Force so many times, you know, if you're a Star Wars fan, you know you've tried to use the Force before. Don't lie to yourself. It's obvious that he would be fascinated by this like relic, this thing that helps Doctor Strange conjure magic. So Peter already goes on a quest to cure these villains. He leaves the box with MJ and Ned, and tells them that if anything goes wrong to complete the spell, they could just literally press the button and complete the spell. Here he works with Norman to cure Otto. It is the craziest thing because, you know, Peter's working with Willem Dafoe. Willem Dafoe is Norman Osborn, and it's just like a crazy little moment where I'm just like, wow, I can't believe this is real. Like, he's literally learning with Norman, and like they're experimenting to cure Otto Octavius. Like, Otto is saved. He's like back to his old self, and it makes me so nostalgic to see like Alfred Molina play, like, you know, the endearing Otto Octavius that we've come to know and love. And this oh my god, even when he says "my dear boy" to Peter, I'm like, come on, that's oh my god, it's like Alfred really slipped in back into Doc Ock and the character of Doc Ock really well, and it made me super nostalgic because Doc Ock has always been one of my favorite comic book movie villains ever. So yeah. So after seeing Otto get cured, it gives Sandman hope that he can return back to normal and go see his daughter again in his universe. But Electro starts feeling uncomfortable with the cure that he's getting because he doesn't want to be cured. He loves feeling powerful. He doesn't want to be back to being a dork like he was before and being helpless and stuff. So this is where the conflict really begins. Norman and Peter are working on the device to help Otto. It's an interesting beat because, you know, they're bonding over intellect, similar to how Tobey and Norman did in the original Spider-Man, and also Tobey and Otto Octavius did in the original Spider-Man 2. When Norman offers Peter to, you know, work with him at Oscorp back in his universe in case he knew how to, you know, travel interdimensionally, I thought that was a really cute moment. But here's where I'm like, I don't know if this is Norman or not. Like, I don't trust you. And, you know, Norman is still Norman, and it's so believable. Oh my god. Willem Dafoe just does a really good job of misdirection, because I genuinely, at this point, I was like, wow, Norman's normal again. Like, wow, this is crazy. Like, he really defeated the Green Goblin persona for a while. Nope. Nope. Soon after, Peter's tingle goes off. The Peter tingle. The Peter tingle was introduced in Far From Home. It's really like dove deep into this movie, and it they do it so well. They actually add like a sound cue, very similar to The Amazing Spider-Man when they use a sound cue in that movie. They also use a sound cue in the original Spider-Man movie when Peter first gets the Spidey sense, when he first fights Flash Thompson in school. You know, like the sound goes out and everything feels muffled and muted and you hear only certain things. They do the same thing here. Oh my god. But before, you know, Peter gets a Peter tingle, there's a scene where Otto tells Norman, "My god, you'll be whole again." He literally says "just me" in the goblin voice, and it was like, oh no. Everybody in theater was like, oh no, because like we knew it was coming, you know, the Green Goblin was coming out. The switch of the tone, like of his voice, is enough to make a grown man cry. I was shaking in my boots when I heard him say "just me" in the Green Goblin voice. I was like, oh hell no. And I thought at this moment he was gonna kill Otto, but he doesn't kill Otto, which is really interesting. I thought he was gonna kill him, but he doesn't. Peter was still in the process of fixing a cure, and then the noise just goes out. Everything just like silence, and then you hear like muffled noises. You hear like this high-pitched sound, and then it does a good as dolly zoom, the same dolly zoom move that they do in Guardians of the Galaxy 2 when Peter Quill finds out that, you know, his dad killed his mom. It is like crazy, but it is so good. This spider sense scene is just amazing because he feels something, but he's not sure what it is yet, and he's just walking around. The camera is like handheld. It's like following him, so like it's like literally following him as he's walking around this apartment. He's trying to figure out what it is, and he calls for Aunt May because, you know, he instinctively knows that May is in danger right now. And so he closes his eyes, he focuses in like Far From Home, and then he webs Norman onto the dummy machine that Tony Stark uses in the Iron Man movies, and then he gives a Green Goblin speech. It is glorious. I don't know it word for word. I will one day. Electro and Sandman are already feeling like they can't trust Peter at this point, so they betray him. Because Green Goblin's like, what are we doing here? Trying to get cured. We're not curses. This is a gift. This is a blessing. So he's so menacing. Oh my god. And so he really feels more menacing here than he does in the original Spider-Man. He feels darker and scarier. Like, I felt more scared than I did as a kid. I feel like, oh my god, it's just because in those movies he felt all felt very campy, but at the same time, like in this, he feels really campy still, but he feels so much more serious because of the tonal shift that this movie does. It's just intense. I really, really loved it. God damn it. Willem Dafoe, you are just, oh my god. So this violent ass fight ensues with Goblin and Peter, and it is insane. Oh my god, the close combat with Tom and Willem, my god, the way they punch each other, just you feel every punch in the movie, like, oh my god. And it's almost like akin to the Dark Knight kind of violence. That violence is intense. I mean, if you recently watched The Dark Knight, that's one of the most violent like comic book movies, and I think it's PG-13. It should have been rated R, honestly. It's PG-13, right? Yeah, it is, because we don't see a lot of blood and gore in that one. But wow, it gets pretty bloody in this movie. So Electro, Sandman, and Lizard escape as J. Jonah Jameson watches from below because he's trying to get good incriminating footage of Spider-Man wrecking this building in Long Island City. And Osborn and Peter fight while May escapes with the rest of the cures. They're still in progress. They didn't get to finish all the cures, so she grabs all of them into a bag and just runs, tries to escape. Jesus Christ. This fight just, oh my, honestly, this sequence is just amazing. It's so brutal, and I especially love when Peter is like on top of Willem, and he's like punching him Black Widow style with his like legs wrapped around his neck, and he's just punching him, and then you just see Willem's face as Norman. He's just like scared, and then you see him turn into the Goblin. He's like smiling. Oh my god. it was crazy. It was crazy. I was like, oh my god. I was literally gripping my armrest. And, you know, Norman sees her, and Norman is just like taunting Peter, and the glider slams Aunt May down to the ground. This scene is so CGI, by the way. I literally hated the way it looked. It looked so bad, but I let it pass because obviously, you know, they couldn't have been able to do that with a stunt double. Green Goblin hops on the glider. He tosses one last pumpkin bomb at the building. Peter tries to catch it. He misses. Everything explodes, knocks Peter out. Aunt May gets up. She's just like getting up. She's weak as hell. She's crawling to Peter. Oh my god. And then she picks Peter up. She's like, are you okay? And they're like, are you okay? And then just like, oh, they're trying to like catch their breath. Oh my god. And Peter just like feels terrible because, you know, Green Goblins was taunting them, making fun of their like moral mission, because they want to help everyone instead of just like killing them. And Aunt May gives an entirely beautiful speech and ends it with great power there must also come great responsibility. Oh my god. I'm here thinking to myself, this is the youngest Peter that we know. This is the age that he loses Uncle Ben in the comics. He loses Uncle Ben in The Amazing Spider-Man as well at this age, and in the Raimi Spider-Man. So it makes sense for his Aunt May to be the Uncle Ben figure at this point. Here's when I realized, oh my god, she's about to die. Because at this point she's like, the adrenaline's kicking in. She's still like kicking. She's still walking. She's still breathing, talking to Peter, giving this entirely big speech. And it's when she delivers this line that I'm like, oh my god. Because everybody in the theater is just like, oh no, because they hear with great power. They're like, Uncle Ben never said it. If Aunt May said it, Aunt May's gonna die. It makes sense for Aunt May to be this. We've seen so many Uncle Bens already that I'm just like, who cares? And Aunt May, I feel like we weren't as attached to her that much, but I feel like in this movie, you feel much more attached to her. She has much more of a presence here. She's much more protective over Peter. And I think that killing her off was a great move on the MCU's part. This was spoiled for me. I still felt every single emotion. When she said the line, tears running down my face. It just, oh my god. Aunt May has never been the best parental figure in Peter's life in the MCU, or the one most shown in comparison to Aunt May in the other adaptations of Spider-Man, but I still felt something when she dies. And it is just a gut punch, man. I mean, Tom's acting in this scene is incredible. You know, he's just like, he does the same thing that Andrew does in The Amazing Spider-Man, where he calls for an ambulance. He's like, somebody help, call an ambulance, call 911. Like, it's really innocent and sad because, you know, this is the Peter that we've seen grow up, and like you weren't expecting him to lose Aunt May because we've already, like, we know that Uncle Ben is not in his life, and we thought that that was an origin story that we didn't see. This was the moment where I was like, no, this movie is his origin story. And it, oh my god, it was just done so well. The Aunt May death scene is one of the best parts of this movie, and there's so many amazing parts of this movie, but when she dies, it is gut-wrenching. It is crazy. And then he's shot. Oh my god, like, after he's already mourning May and crying over her and just like devastated, he gets shot. Like, damn, can Peter get a break? While Happy sees Peter mourning over May's body, and like he yells for him to escape. It's just a very, very sad scene. Then it cuts to Peter standing in the rain in front of a massive jumbotron of J. Jonah Jameson, just talking about what he had witnessed because he was there. He says, everywhere Spider-Man goes, chaos and calamity follows. And it's just, oh, this scene is just beautiful. This whole shot is so cinematic and just looks amazing because it's just this Peter without the mask. He's in his Spider-Man suit. He's defeated. He's lost all hope. He's just watching J. Jonah Jameson rip him apart. and he's standing on a building and just the rain is pouring. It's just like, oh, it's the saddest thing ever. There isn't much of J. Jonah Jameson in this film, but when he is in it, he really feels like the J. Jonah Jameson from the PS4 game. You know, like he's a narrator in that game a few times, and he is constantly ripping Spider-Man to shreds in his podcast. And he's constantly like calling him a menace, and though whether it be for comic relief or not, in this film I feel like it wasn't for comic relief. It kind of adds on to the story, it adds on more to the tension of Peter trying to navigate the fact that everybody knows he's Spider-Man and he's constantly being attacked by the press, you know what I mean? So I really do like the way J. Jonah Jameson was presented in this film. Already an hour in, and we are finally getting into the big part of this movie. So MJ and Ned, they're worried after seeing the news about Peter, and they try to decide to complete the spell, but Ned just doesn't agree with trying to complete the spell, and he just goes, I just want to see Peter again. And then a spark flies out because he's still wearing the sling ring. A spark flies out, and then he just like, what the hell was that? And then MJ is just like, do it again. Ned, because he's witnessed like seeing Doctor Strange and Wong do the whole thing, he attempts to do it again. Like a portal starts to open where he's just like, I wish we could see Peter again. And then he does the thing, I wish we could see Peter again. And then it opens up, and it's a dark alleyway. It's a figure, but it's not looking like short little Tom Holland. It is lanky. It's a lanky, skinny man. He's pretty tall. It's really dark. MJ and Ned are like, okay, that's Peter. And they call for his name. Andrew turns around. The big eyes. The big eyes from the mask. Oh my god. When I tell you, once he turned around, the entire theater erupted. Oh my god, yo. The portal opens up. Andrew Garfield Spider-Man jumps through. Ned's grandma is like screaming because she's like, what the hell is this? Because that's not the Spider-Man she knows. It's like this big-eyed, taller Spider-Man. He's like creepy as hell. And Andrew takes off his mask. He's just like, what the hell? It is a fantastic moment, and I will never forget it. Wow. Andrew coming back is literally one of the greatest things I've ever seen in my entire life. I heard people saying like, oh, why would Andrew take off his mask? Why would he remove his mask? Because Ned's Lola was scared as hell when, he jumps out. And I'm not surprised that he would take off his mask to help her stop screaming, because in The Amazing Spider-Man 1, when he's on the bridge scene, when it's on the bridge scene and he saves that little kid, the kid is screaming for help in the car. He takes off his mask to, calm him down, because, he just says like, I'm just a guy, just another guy. And it's just like, oh my god. I love that scene, by the way. It's one of my favorite Spider-Man scenes, and oh my god, wow. Plus, this is not his universe, so it doesn't matter if he takes his mask off or not. He's fully aware that it's not his universe, because he's kind of already speculating it at that point. He's just like, this is all real? Everything that I've, like, read about is real? Like, everything that he's confirmed, because, Peter's a scientist in the Amazing Spider-Man movies, so... God damn it. MJ and Ned, they figure out that they've conjured the wrong Peter. So Ned tries again. This is where I'm like, Toby's coming. Toby's coming now. Everybody's just like clapping it up. They're ready for that portal to open. And then it opens right behind Ned. And Toby comes out dressed like a cool youth pastor. He's in like normal clothing, and Ned is like, oh, it's just some guy. It is so, oh my god. Tobey Maguire, he looks so much older. It makes me emotional thinking about like seeing him like that, because I've watched the original Spider-Man movie so many times. So to see Tobey looking different from like my original like perspective of what Toby looks like in that movie, like me thinking he looks the same. He doesn't. He's older. And I think that in of itself really kind of like affected me a little bit emotionally, because I just felt so much emotion from just seeing him sort of just walk out in like normal clothes, and you know, Lola like looks at him and like flirtatiously goes like this, and then he's like this. I'm like, oh my god. I think what it was for me that like broke me was seeing Toby smile, because Toby's smile is so endearing in the original Spider-Man movies. In any movie, honestly, Toby has just like that smile that like it just makes you want to be like, oh. While Toby is not my personal favorite Spider-Man, he's definitely one of my favorite Peter Parkers. It's nostalgic as hell. And the first Spidey movie that I remember seeing is Spider-Man 3 in 2007. I grew up with Spider-Man as Tobey, but then I also remember the day that Andrew was casted, and I remember seeing the trailer for The Amazing Spider-Man and being so excited that Spider-Man's coming back to film and like coming back to the theaters, and like I can go watch The Amazing Spider-Man now. I was like 12 or 13 when I first saw The Amazing Spider-Man, seeing Andrew Garfield for the first time. Oh, fell in love. That's my man right there. Andrew Garfield, if you're watching this on your creeper account, I will take you out on a date. Anyways, I remember loving Tobey, and I remember loving Andrew for totally different reasons. I've always felt like Andrew really understood the character of Spider-Man, but I also always felt that Tobey understood the character of Peter Parker, the dorky side of Peter Parker. He really got that down. Like a really cringy, dorky Peter Parker. He really understood that, especially in Spider-Man 2. He's just a great Peter Parker in that film. Oh my god. I mean, Tobey throughout the film, in this movie, he feels so much more experienced, a mature Peter. Reminds me of like Old Man Logan, and he feels more like a dad figure. He feels kind of like Peter B. Parker. He's experienced. He's like older, and like, you know, nothing really is the same. He can't swing like he usually does because he's older. His body's getting, you know, deteriorating, because I mean, come on, after years of fighting as Spider-Man, obviously it would affect him a lot. Not as intense as Logan, but you know, at face value, it's like Old Man Logan seeing an older Wolverine. It's like seeing an older Spider-Man. Like, it's really jarring and sad because of the amount of times that we've watched the original Spider-Man movies and witnessed Tobey as like we see Tobey as this like certain look. It's just jarring to see him become older. I also love the moment where like Tobey notices Andrew from across the room, and they like instantly web each other, and they're like and there's like this whole web shooter fight, and they both flip at the same time and dodge the web, and then Tobey ends up getting Andrew in his web shooter. Like, of course Tobey would win that little fight. Like, of course, because he's already experienced, you know, and obviously, like, come on, let Tobey have it, you know what I mean? I love it because Tobey webs Andrew's web shooter, and he's just like, and then Andrew's like, and it's just like, oh my god, it's just this moment, like, oh my god. Tobey and Andrew's interaction in this film by themselves and with Tom's Peter, pure and excellent. Oh my god, it's just like everything that I wanted and more. You know, hearing Tobey and Andrew being in this movie, you know, I've had my expectations, you know, what the scenes may look like, but I never really, it's different when you see them actually on film and you see them interact with each other, and like you see them act differently because they're older and it's been a long time, and they slip back into their characters, even slip back into a character and make it even better in Andrew's point, because I feel like Andrew really slipped in, but he made it 10 times better. I felt like he really, like, he came back into this role, and I was like, I'm here 110%, like, I'm gonna give it my all, and he did. He really, really did, and I loved it. I loved every second of it. Oh my god. I love that Tobey gets the idea that Peter may have just gone to a certain place after Aunt May died, where he can just be alone and think to himself. Because at this point, both Peters have been in this universe for a while, and they've been looking for Tom's Peter, but they couldn't find him. So when MJ and Ned bring them in, they're like, oh, we've been looking for him because we feel like he needs our help. And so the initial thought to, you know, go to like a place where like he would want to be by himself and like be by his own thoughts. Toby mentions the Chrysler Building, and then Andrew mentions the Empire State Building, and my initial thought was just like, oh my god, he would go to Avengers Campus. I mean, he would go to Avengers Tower, but Avengers Tower doesn't even exist anymore because somebody bought it. I still don't know who bought it. I think Wilson Fisk bought it. They find Peter at the top of his school because that's where he's had like his moments with MJ and Ned about, you know, escaping the public and like, you know, actually talking and being with each other. And so they both find Peter at the top of Midtown, and MJ and Ned both console Peter first over the death of Aunt May, and then, you know, they have this like group hug. Oh my god, it instantly made me cry just seeing Jacob's tear fall down, and just Peter like instantly breaking down when he like falls into MJ's arms. It's like, oh my god, it's just a great moment. I'm getting emotional. Gets me every time. Oh my god, every single time. Like every single time I saw it twice. It gets me every time. I see it on TikTok and I'm like, oh man. It's just really emotional because we've seen them grow up together like throughout these films, like seeing them on the press tours, Jacob is Zendaya and Tom, seeing them older, and like they have this like emotional scene they never had before. They've never had this emotional scene before. They never really had like a scene where like they really got super intimate. And like to see it was just, oh, it was like everything I've ever wanted. I really, really loved that they had this like moment to grieve and, you know, empathize with Peter and like feel for him because of the death of Aunt May. It is just so amazing, and oh my god. Jesus Christ. Anyways, after their hug, you know, MJ's like, there's people here that want to see you, and Peter automatically senses something. He looks up, and at the top of Midtown, it's it's both of them. It's both Toby and Andrew, like, oh my god, it's both Toby and Andrew like in the shadows, like it's dark as hell, it's nighttime, and you just see both of them like, oh my god, you just see them both like, it's just an amazing like cinematic moment right there, like and they both hop down to the ledge to talk to Peter, and then he knows that it's them, he knows that it's other Peters, and he's just so defeated that he's not even surprised at this point. He's just like defeated, he's hopeless. He just tells them to go home. This is where I'm like, oh my god, Tom, like, Peter, like, no, like, they're here to help you, dude. And then, you know, Toby and Andrew try to plead their case, and they're like, no, we know where you're going through, and Peter's just like, no, you don't. No, you don't. And then they talk about their losses. Toby talks about Uncle Ben, and Andrew talks about Gwen. He's like, I lost Gwen, my MJ. John Watts, I have a bone to pick with you. So when they're sharing these stories about, you know, Uncle Ben and Gwen, and like, you know, they can relate to Aunt May's death, you know, Peter's just like defeated. He doesn't feel like he can do it. He doesn't feel like he can go on, but then he remembers that Aunt May said, with great power. And then Toby finishes the line and says, comes great responsibility. And then Andrew's like, Uncle Ben said it. And I was just like, fuck off. First of all, his Uncle Ben does not say the line. He says it weirdly. Roll the clip.
But your father lived by a philosophy, a principle, really. He believed that if you could do good things for other people, you had a moral obligation to do those things. That's what's at stake here. Not choice, responsibility.
He doesn't say the line, so, but it is really like just an endearing moment where I'm just like, oh my god. I'm like out of breath because I'm just like, I feel winded talking about this movie. It's just really emotional, god damn. So when Peter realizes that both Peters know exactly what he's talking about, this gives him the sign to keep on fighting in May's honor. And they said that they'll figure out how to do it together, how to defeat the villains and cure them together, and continue on with May's plan. It is by far my favorite part of this movie is all three of the Peters in this lab in Midtown trying to, oh my god, trying to like cure the villains, develop the cures for the villains, and like be all sciencey and shit, and they're like science bros. It's like it is so good. Oh my god, it is amazing. It is amazing. And then Andrew says like, oh, I can cure Connors again. I've done it before, I can do it again. And then Toby's like, I've been going over this cure for years. I'm ready to do it this time. And he comes up with the goblin cure, and you know, they've already managed to create the electro cure. And they all three of them figure out a cure for Sandman. And here's where both Toby and Andrew talk about what they've gone through after the events of their last movies, with Toby mentioning his relationship as a work in progress, and then Andrew not having enough time for Peter Parker stuff anymore. It's just a really good scene of them talking, just them together. Oh my god, I love it. And then Ned also asks Toby about his best friend, and then he was like, Harry, he died after he tried to kill me. And then Ned is like, oh hell no. He just has this whole existential crisis. He goes to Tom's Peter, and he's just like, just know I will never turn into a villain and try to kill you. I love Ned. I love Ned so much. Oh my god, you have no idea, guys. I really love Ned. I think he's one of the best friends that Peter has in all of the trilogies, in all of the Spider-Man adaptations. Ned is Peter's greatest friend. MJ and Peter have like a moment talking about how like amazing it, like MJ's like, oh my god, it's amazing, it's three Peters. And it's like the cutest thing, because like, you know, this is a moment where like MJ is like clearly falling in love with Peter, and like, you know, she's watching them, like, you know, all three Peters, and she's just like, can't believe there's more of you, like, you know. It's like, and Peter kind of breaks down a bit at the fact that he feels like he may not make it, but he couldn't have done it without MJ's help. And like they have this really intimate emotional moment where she's like, we'll get through this together. It's a really, really sweet moment, and I love it. And I wish they kissed in this moment, but they don't. I don't know why they didn't, but it would have been really great if they kissed, and it pans to Andrew and he's watching them, like, you know. But they do pan to Andrew, he is watching them, and it's just really touching because, you know, he sees them and he automatically thinks of him and Gwen, and it's just like, god damn it, like, I love the part where Ned calls out for Peter. He's like, Peter, and then they all like, yes? Oh, you mean that Peter? Oh, I thought we were talking about them. Oh, and then he's like, Peter Parker, and it's like, same again, bro. I love it. I love it. They're both pointing at they're all three of them pointing at each other. They do the meme. It's just, this movie. Anyways, they lure Electro, Sandman, and Lizard to the renovated Statue of Liberty, and they struggle to catch them, figure out a way to work as a team and cure Sandman and Lizard. They literally have to stop midway to have a group talk, because Peter tells them like, oh, I was with the Avengers, I know how to work as a team. And then Toby's like, that's great, what is that? And then Andrew's like, are you in a band? Is that a band? And then Peter's like, okay, just ignore whatever. Like, you're Peter 2 talking to Toby, and then you're Peter 3, and Andrew's like, I'm Peter 3. I love Andrew Garfield so much. Andrew Garfield just has that charisma, that just it factor when it comes to playing Peter Parker and Spider-Man. I'm sorry. That is my man, and I have nothing to explain. Nothing. Okay? Anyways, as they're about to get ready, Andrew stops them, and he's just like, wait, guys. I love you guys. And Toby and Tom turn around, they're like, thank you. And then they're like, okay, let's go. And then Peter is the one, well, our Peter is the one that is leading the team. And they, all three of them, just hop off the scaffolding, and they like swing into action. They swing around the Statue of Liberty, and they web shoot like at each other and like swing with each other. It is the most insane moment ever. Like, oh my god, I can't believe this movie is real. I can't believe this. Oh my god, I can't believe this movie is real. Like, are you kidding me? That is a moment. And then when they plop down on the statue in order, versus Toby because he's the first Spider-Man, and then it's Andrew because he's second, and then our Spider-Man plows down in the middle and they jump off and they kick some ass, and then Andrew kicks Lizard. Finally we see that moment of Lizard being kicked. Oh my god. This movie, man, this movie really got me messed up. But that is the money shot right there, okay? Oh my god. That's one of my favorite moments as well. One by one, they cure Sandman first, and his cure looks so similar to the collider he fell in, which I thought that was a really cute detail to include. Then they go after Lizard, who's chasing after MJ and Ned, but Andrew finally gets to webbing him up and cures him as well. They do like a whole game of football. They like keep tossing the cures at each other, and they're catching them, and like Toby even like almost drowns with Sandman. And then you see Toby's hand shoot up, grab the cure, and just jam the cure into Sandman, and it is great. And so Electro comes in, comic accurate as hell, with that like mask, that electric mask that he creates with his electricity. He subdues Andrew and Toby, like he grabs them both, electrocutes both of them after Toby tries to save Andrew, and then they're quickly saved by Otto because he comes back, and then I forgot that he was good again, and he stops Electro. He's like, don't worry, I got this. And then he grabs both Andrew and Toby, saves both of them, and then grabs the cure that Electro needs and just cures Electro. It is a moment because I mean, Otto Octavius comes back to save the day, and it's just really good for him to be a hero now, especially in this movie. And it's just like, oh my god, there's a very short moment with Otto and Toby, and he's just like, dear boy, you've grown up, how are you? And Toby's like, I'm trying to do better. And I'm like, oh. It made me cry again because it just reminded me of Spider-Man 2. God damn it. And Ned failed to close their portal with the box because they have the box again. They're trying to keep it away from the villains. But Ned accidentally frees Strange from the mirror dimension, and then Strange takes his sling ring back. And then Strange sees Peter with the other Peters, and he's automatically like stressed out. He's just like, oh. He comes in, he's like, can Spider-Man come out to play? And then he comes out, just like a bunch of pumpkin bombs tossed at the Statue of Liberty, and they all dodge it, but then one of the pumpkin bombs falls into the box, and the box explodes, and the spell breaks. And it shatters the multiverse, kind of. It shatters the universe, and it opens up, and you start to see figures of villains. It's insane. The sheer power of the bomb going off, it like causes the shield on the Statue of Liberty to fall off the scaffolding. This is a moment right here. Causes MJ and Ned to fall. Peter sees MJ falling. Peter attempts to grab her. Just before he's about to grab her, he gets caught by the Green Goblin glider. And Andrew sees it. He's like, no! He dives head first. Grabs MJ, web shoots the scaffolding, pulls them both back up, and lands perfectly. And he redeems himself for getting Gwen Stacy killed. It is just epic. I've never wanted anything more in my life than for Andrew Garfield to get his redemption. It is beautiful how this movie really got Andrew's redemption right, and I feel like, oh my god, they finally did him justice, and it's just amazing. This is what good writing gets you, bro. This is what good writing gets you, okay? Oh my god. Making sure MJ's okay. He's just like, are you okay? And she's like, I'm okay. And she looks at Andrew. Andrew's like tearing up, and she's like, are you okay? And he's just like, oh, I can't. Get me out of here. Get me out of here, okay? I don't want to talk about it anymore. I don't, but just know that scene really got me. God damn it. Strange tries to maintain the barrier, and enraged Peter attempts to kill Green Goblin because Peter destroys Goblin's glider, and then a fight ensues, and it's brutal. Like, he literally like punches the shield of the Statue of Liberty, and like that one blow dented the shield. Like, that could have killed Green Goblin in one shot. but Green Goblin dodges it, of course. But he really beats the shit out of him. He really gets him good. Like, that sequence is really amazing. Like, Tom Holland he came to play no games. He said, absolutely not. I'm going to go in. And he does. And it's incredible. And as he delivers a final blow, MJ, Ned, and the two Peters just watch in horror. And then Toby decides to step in. He looks at Andrew for approval. And then they're like... And then Toby just steps in, stops Peter from grabbing the glider and stabbing Goblin. He gives him like a really quiet look. He looks at him. He's just like, there's nothing to say because like it's just, you know, nothing is said, but yet everything is said in this moment. And Toby finally stops the glider from killing Norman like it did in Spider-Man 1. And he gets his own redemption for, you know, that moment probably tortured Peter in that universe for a long time. And because Goblin is still Goblin at this point, he stabs Toby and it's a massive fake out. Literally when this moment happens, I was so pissed off. I was like, are you kidding me? I literally was like, no! Because of this, when Toby gets stabbed, Andrew tosses the cure to Peter, and then Peter just like stabs Osborn in the neck and injects him with the cure, and he restores back into Norman. And it's just, you know, yeah. So after all the villains have been cured and they all have to like just stop, Strange is still trying to, you know, form the, you know, the barrier back in and trying to close it. The multiverse is still opening, and villains who know Peter is Spider-Man, like Rhino, Scorpion, Kraven, it's a bunch of other silhouettes that I didn't really catch, but those are the three that I really caught. Peter, they're all about to like come in. Peter realizes that the only way to protect the multiverse and his universe is to erase himself from everyone's memory, and he acts strange to do it. MJ and Ned reluctantly agree. Like, they're like, no, like there has to be another way, and Peter's like, there is no other way. Like, this is the only way that they're gonna be able to survive this. And, you know, they agree that they can find him again and remember him, and MJ tells Peter that she loves him and just tells him to wait until she remembers so he can say it back. And it is... they kiss. I wish that this kiss could have been seen because there was a big sun glare behind them, so you can't really see the kiss unless you're like really up there looking at them, like I was my first viewing. But oh, it is just absolutely insane, and I love it. It's just beautiful. God damn it. Strange casts the spell that helps them, basically makes everyone forget about Peter Parker. And the spell is cast and everyone returns to their universes. They all fade away, kind of like how like people dusted away in Infinity War and Endgame, but they fade away into like a ball of light. Like they literally like just like burst into light and just fade away. And so each villain fades away because they're already restored. They already have like their little redemption there, and they're finally cured. And then it cuts to Toby and Andrew. Oh my god, wait, no, before they say before Peter says goodbye to MJ and Ned, he says goodbye to Toby and Andrew, and they hug. And then he like struggles to say what he wants to say, like he thanks them, but he has nothing else to say. But Toby is just like, we know, it's what we do. And then John Watts. God damn it. So yeah, everyone returns to their universes. Andrew disappears. He literally goes like this to Toby, and Toby's just like this. Okay, we're back to the end. Peter visits MJ and Ned weeks later at her job. She tries to introduce, and then he tries to introduce himself. But upon seeing her band-aid on her head, they have this moment where they're having a conversation. MJ has no idea who he is. But Peter is about to say it, about to tell her this whole thing. He rehearsed this whole speech to tell her who he is. He sees this band-aid on her head and automatically remembers, like, she's hurt. She's been hurt for the past few weeks. And this is the moment where he just looks at her, and he has a moment where he's just like, he just decides not to tell her, and it's just heartbreaking as hell. If he figures that they are safe without having Peter in their lives, because he finds out that they both get into MIT, they're both accepted, and they're fine without him, and he sees that. Even though they don't know, they will never know Peter again until whenever the spell is rewinded or something. But he leaves them alone and just walks away, just leaves them alone. Then he cuts to where he mourns at May's grave, and May's grave says something really interesting. Like I said, if you play the Spider-Man PS4 game, you would know, and you caught this. On May's grave, it says, when you help someone, you help everyone. It is just a moment. God damn it. Just a moment. And then he has a conversation with Happy, who's also visiting May's grave, and they talk about Tony Stark for a little bit. But Happy doesn't know who he is still, and Peter is just like wearing a hat. He looks like his character from Terry. He mentions Tony's death, and then it's something that reminds Happy to keep going, and this also inspires Peter to keep going. So Peter finds himself in a new apartment. Don't know how he's paying for that. He needs a job. Like, he needs to go work at the Daily Bugle. He needs to become a photographer. This is the way he's gonna become a photographer. Yeah. He needs a job. He needs to go, deliver pizzas, with pizza time. And then this is where he's inspired to keep going without the Peter Parker identity. It's so funny. Like, how the hell you have an apartment? You have no credit. Like, you have nothing on file. Nobody knows who you are. You have no credit. How you get an apartment? Just little things that pissed me off just a bit. Because I wish it was that easy. Anyways, he rents an apartment on his own. He has a bunch of boxes. The first thing that he sets down is this Lego Emperor Palpatine. This was what broke me. This is what broke me at the very end. This was my last good cry. I let out the biggest cry when I saw that Emperor Palpatine drop down, because it just reminded me of Homecoming. That Emperor Palpatine Lego, that's the first thing that Ned gives him in Homecoming. That's Ned's first scene, so that's the first reminder of Ned that he's had in this home trilogy. And then he sets it down next to MJ's coffee cup, because it's a coffee cup that she has from her bakery that she works at. And then it's both set down next to a sewing machine, and you see fabric of red and blue fabric, and then you see Peter just web back his mask, and then you see him hop out of a window, and you see that metallic blue and red suit, and then it's snowing outside, and you just see him swing outside into the snow. He passes by the Christmas tree in Rockefeller Center, and it is just the most beautiful scene ever. Oh my god, first of all, the comic accurate suit, we gotta give it up for that. I mean, I was just like, oh my god, are you serious? Like, they really did that. They did it for me. They listened to us. We said no more Stark suits, please. I've had enough of the Iron Spider suit. Please let it go. And they heard all of our prayers. Like, I was literally begging. Like, I'm here like, oh my god, I hope all the Stark suits get destroyed, and I hope he makes his own suit at the end of this movie. And he does. And he does. Oh my god. He resumes his life as the one and only Spider-Man in his universe. Still no one knowing that it's Peter Parker behind the mask, and nobody knows who Peter Parker is, period. And this is where Peter has finally become... I've done with my notes. Here's where Peter has finally become the Spider-Man that we have wanted from Tom Holland's universe, from Tom Holland's Spider-Man. This is where we finally see this Peter become Spider-Man. And it is just a glorious moment. It is so worth the pain and the torture that he had to go through in this movie, it's so worth it at this point. Like, oh my god, just seeing him fly through the sky, swing through the sky with this metallic blue and matte red suit. And I personally think that this Peter got inspired by his other Peters to create this suit because he saw how homemade their suits are, because they both made their own suits. And I really hope that the new Spider-Man, oh my god, my foot is falling asleep. I hope that this new Spider-Man that we get from the MCU moving forward, he uses this suit for at least the whole first movie he comes back in. Like, I don't need a suit change unless he makes it himself. Just, I'm okay with this suit because this suit was absolutely perfect. In my opinion, it looked amazing. The logo was comic accurate. It just looked so good. I can't wait for a high quality screen cap of that suit, and I want it framed because that was just beautiful, man. God damn it, Lord. That is the end of this movie. That is the end of the movie. It is the saddest ending to a Spider-Man movie. It beats the ending of Spider-Man 2. It beats the ending of Spider-Man. It just beats every single ending. It reminds me of the first Spider-Man movie and the first Amazing Spider-Man movie, because they both end with Peter as Spider-Man swinging through the city. It's just perfect. It's a perfect ending. Like, oh my god. You know, this movie has gone through the entire trajectory of Peter finally becoming Spider-Man, and it's just a really well done story of how Peter's origin is in the MCU. This origin story is literally the whole trilogy. We get really young Peter Parker. He's making mistakes and he's constantly doing bad things, but he learns that, you know, without his suit, he's still Spider-Man at the very end. And Far From Home, he learns more about responsibility, about, you know, the Stark Tech and who he trusts and stuff. And then this next one is just everything. Him learning to be brave, him learning responsibility, him learning to grieve. This is like the first time where we really see him really lose someone very close to him. Obviously, Tony Stark was the father figure, the Uncle Ben figure, but not really. He didn't grow up with Tony Stark. He grew up with Aunt May. Aunt May raised him. That is the woman that raised him. Okay? And he loses his best friends. He has tremendous loss in this film. He loses almost everything. And it's the perfect send-off and the perfect kickoff for a new era of Tom Holland Spider-Man. And wow, am I floored with the way that this movie really put him through the ringer and really gave us a satisfying ending and a satisfying journey for Spider-Man in the MCU. Oh my god, I cannot wait to see him again. I cannot wait to see more of the Spider-Man story. I really fucking hope they make a Spider-Man, The Amazing Spider-Man 3. If they make a third The Amazing Spider-Man movie, I am going to lose my shit. Mark my words. I could go without, you know, Spider-Man 4 for Tobey, because I feel like this arc ended really well for him. You know, I feel like we learned so much about him already, and we got to what we needed to know about him. But I feel like Andrew still has some Spider-Maning left for him to do. I really do hope that they bring him back for something. Even both of them back. I don't mind seeing them back. I mean, the Marvel multiverse is so big that, like, you know, anything can happen. Anything can happen at this point. But yeah, that is the end of my breakdown and my thoughts on Spider-Man. I really enjoyed this movie. This movie was so fun, so sad, so depressing. And it's definitely going to be the movie that I rewatch the most out of all of them. You know, this movie is tied with Into the Spider-Verse. Into the Spider-Verse is my perfect Spider-Man film, and this is the perfect live action Spider-Man film that we've gotten so far. It used to be Spider-Man 3. Spider-Man 3 has some flaws, but Spider-Man 3 felt like the most perfect film. This one really felt like the most perfect film for the adaptation of Peter Parker and Spider-Man as the duality of those characters, and we finally get to see Tom Holland come into his own and finally become the Spider-Man that we've wanted for so long, and it's just amazing. I'm really happy with this film. I'm really happy that I finally saw it, and I'm so happy that I finally got to talk about it with you all. Thank you so much for watching and for tuning in. I really appreciate it. If you don't mind, you can go follow me on Instagram and TikTok. I make some makeup content on there, Marvel and makeup content specifically. I'm going to be coming out with more Marvel makeup content very soon. I'm going to talk about Hawkeye because there's some stuff that we need to talk about, especially with the finale coming out in like a day. Thank you so much for watching, for tuning in. If you want to see my 3 tutorials based on each Spider-Man, go look at them. They are going pretty viral on TikTok, which I'm really happy about and really appreciate. So thank you if you're coming from TikTok, if you're coming from Instagram, if you're coming from anywhere in the world, if you come across this video. Shout out to you. I really appreciate it. And yeah, thank you so much. Join the initiative, become an Avenger, subscribe to my channel, like this video if you loved it, if you loved anything that I said in this video, give it a thumbs up. I would appreciate it so much. And yeah, that is it. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next Marvel and makeup video when I'm actually doing my makeup that time. Bye.